What's up, Legion? It's stevezapf, your honorable leader. We have been teasing this interview for a long time, and here it is. We're officially giving you our interview with three-time world champion. That's right. It's going to be EC3. We have EC3, the current NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He's a former two-time TNA World Heavyweight Champion. He's going to be on the show. We're going to go in-depth with some of these interview questions. We're going to ask some things that maybe he's answered, maybe he hasn't, but we're going to make sure we get all the answers out to you, Legion. Please, please, please follow, like, subscribe. It's the best way to help us out if you're enjoying our content. And as always, we thank you, and tuck your chin when you bump. Here we go. We have three-time world champion EC3 here with us on the show. EC, Mr. 3, if you will.
Mr. 3 works. Yes, thank you.
Welcome to I Still Call It a Lariat. It's a pleasure to have you on. You and I have talked a couple times in our illustrious careers, but this is the first time it's going to be recorded. I always like to say how we have very similar mindsets on things.
Well, I hope so. You know,
depending on what world events are going on. But thank you for being on.
What are you saying what I think you're saying?
I probably.
Good. Then you get it. All right.
Oh, man. So the first time I ever met you was actually at Pro Wrestling 2.0. You did a seminar there. I still have the shirt. I still have the tenants. I still follow them daily, just so you know.
I'm actually going to begin revamping those a little bit. So that's part of a master plan. Don't stooge it off to the internet, but there's a lot of good information there. And I think creating some sort of online wrestling curriculum, I'm going to base off of that. So, instill my insanity and knowledge onto other people if I can't get them hands-on. But I think continuing education in wrestling is important, and I think I can base something off of those crazy ramblings that turned out to be, dare I say, Moses' commandments in wrestling sense.
I mean, I am a fan of them. As I said, I follow them pretty strictly as far as wrestling goes. I've talked to other people who I was like, hey, if you ever need to talk to somebody, EC3 is kind of one of those guys to talk to. I actually appreciate that you do answer messages and things like that. I know a lot of guys in your position would not, so I'm just always a fan of the fact that you will answer people and give your honest opinions.
And that's, I think, a key thing is the honest opinion. I would rather give you an honest opinion than, than just blow smoke up your proverbial butthole. Because, it's only through honesty. If you are honest with people, whether good, bad, indifferent, your thoughts, your feelings, your truth, as long as you are honest, I think that you can live a good and healthy life, and you can develop real relationships that matter. If everything's fibbing and lying and narcissistically kind of being delusional to yourself, then I don't know. Like you read in the tenets, you kind of fit into that 97% I talk about.
Exactly, and we know that you are. Where are you at now? Are you still the 0.01%, or I think I heard that you were moving into the 0.1% now?
I throw the decimal points around here and there, give or take. But well, the only reason I brought that
0.0001%.
The only reason I brought that back was the pomp and circumstances of an entrance that needs as much flair and gaga as possible. But then two, I don't watch a lot of modern wrestling, but I heard somebody call themselves the 1%. I don't know who it would be or why they would, other than it sounds really cool and it worked really well. So I just had to up that ante. I don't know if it's a stickler, though, for where I'm going, but it's fun. Yeah, 0.01%.
The first real question I have for you, can you pinpoint when you became a fan? Everyone always talks about we're all wrestling fans at heart. What made you fall in love with it? Do you remember? Was it a match? Was it a particular show? Was it just, I know you're from Ohio originally. Is it like that area, that Midwest area maybe caught on to you a little bit, or anything, or like I said, a particular star maybe?
The Ultimate Warrior's entrance as a child is what made me a fan.
Nice.
So
One of my
throw away
co-hosts will love
throw away
you
the
eternally for that.
throw away the ring work or the work rate or whatever, and throw away his absolute insanity at times, and is probably very difficult to deal with backstage theatrics, whatever. But like when I saw that for the very first time, I was hooked. Like, here is a mutated muscle man screaming and rampaging, running full bore into a ring, shaking ropes, colorful. I mean, that's what made me a fan. And in fact, when him and Hogan had to match up, like, I was just becoming a fan, and I was like, Hogan who? So that would be the first thing. And then as a kid, I was a fan, but I was like kind of in and out. And then life goes on, and I kind of missed the mid 90s. So I missed, like, the Shawn and the Bret era, so to speak. But I came back around being a fan when I watched, I think it was The Rock versus Ken Shamrock when The Rock was a heel.
Okay.
And I think he plastered Shamrock with brass knucks. And I was like, that was awesome. And then that's what remade me a fan during the Attitude Era, so to
During the
speak.
Attitude Era,
And then
the Nation Rock versus Ken Shamrock.
Yeah, then student of the game ever since then. So I was all in after that. Then the second thing I saw after that was Goldust, and I'm like, what is this shit? And I was like, this is cool. So
You know what? I look back now, and it's funny you bring up Goldust because I look back now and I realize, like, 10, 13-year-old me was like, what is this guy? And then now I'm looking back, I'm like, man, he was a genius.
really,
What is wrong with me not realizing how cool this was?
well, it's like an old movie. Sometimes like you watch a classic movie that maybe as a kid you watched and you didn't really get it, but then you watch it now as an adult, and there's like story and depth you can't even imagine. I'm trying to think of a good example from the 80s, like, because I don't know, I grew up on Schwarzenegger and Stallone. Like, 12 Angry Men, for example. If I was a kid and you put that on, black and white, guys barking at each other, I don't understand what's happening. Like, no, I don't like this. But I'll watch it now to be like, this is infatuating.
I can see that. As a kid, I probably wouldn't have liked Cool Hand Luke, but I love the movie Cool Hand Luke.
50 hard boiled eggs. Cool Hand
50
Luke.
hard boiled eggs? Nobody can eat 50 hard boiled eggs.
Prove it.
That's how he got the spoon, man. So it's funny you brought up Warrior too, because my next question is: you're known for having one of the best physiques in wrestling. I mean, forever. As soon as you kind of hit big, you were. I hate to say it, you were known a little bit as a body guy because you have a great body.
Thank you.
But have you always been into working out, or was it kind of the love of the Warrior brought you to working out? Or in my case, I started working out because I was a small kid. Like, was it one of those type of situations?
It was definitely. Oh, Mambo's here. Sorry. One of the students showed up. Yeah, like I was a sick kid. So I had asthma and a bunch of, you know, issues when I was a child. So being sick, like I think there's something when you're sick that when you become apt to it, you really try to like build up. And maybe it's subconscious, but a sick kid, I was a pretty good athlete, but I wasn't, super stellar. But when I went from grade school, a private grade school, to a high school, and then we're in the weight room for the first time, and I didn't know what was going on. And I was bench pressing, and I had like 65 on the bar, and I'm a freshman, and some dude laughed at me. My mother laughed in my face, like, and he drew a little stick figure picture of me, and I'm like, what a. So since then, I had a vendetta to build that up, and especially because of the past, but really turning into a quote body guy. I mean, the second I knew I wanted to do this, I was actually reading Foley's book because I was like, I don't want to do any of these things. And like, who's he point to? Like, you look at a guy like Triple H, I'm like, I want to look like that. So the fandom in me, when I realized I wanted to do this, I was like, when I do things, I go all in. So that was definitely one aspect of it where I became kind of a nuanced and nut about it. Funny story about the kid that laughed at me, though. I held that grudge for years, many, many years. And then one day I came home from Christmas, right? And we're at the bar, and I see him. And I'm jacked now, and I'm a world champion. And I'm like, I'm going to tell this mother exactly what I think of him and what he did to me. And I walk up to him at the bar and he turns around and he's like, dude, what's up, man? So good to see you. Slapping hands. He's like, "Look at you. Like, I'm so proud of what you did, man. That's awesome. You went and did all these things. I'm like, yeah, yeah. And I went, you want a drink, buddy?
Yeah.
Just a 15-year grudge.
I feel like
No.
you and I really are kind of kindred spirits in this one because I kind of had the same situation. I got out of high school. I was at the bar and I happened to run into the captain of the hockey team from when I was in high school. Cool. He's never a bad guy, but he's still the captain of the hockey team. And we had a state final hockey team every year. We show up and we're talking, and all of a sudden a girl walks past us and kind of gives us the, huh. And I was like, oh, so you still got it? She's like, no, man. She was looking at you. I was like, oh, we're not in high school anymore. Me, you say.
It's interesting. It's fun, though, but it's always fun to see where you came from. But again, to the body guy aspect, I hate bodybuilders. I've done a bodybuilding competition or two. I hate their mentality. I hate their work ethic. Like, all they do is smoke weed, lift weights, and take drugs. You know what I mean? And play video games while we, as wrestlers, train like that, yet we also train for wrestling and we go fall down and get beat up. But if I'm going to be something, I want to be the absolute best. If I'm going to be on TV in my underwear, look, man, I'm going to look fucking shredded, okay? Okay, like, it's almost a disease at this point. And
We are the most insecure people on the planet. Pro wrestlers are, like, without a doubt. Or you're the most secure person. Like, oh, you feel okay going out with those torn jeans and that messy singlet? Like, okay, good for you, man. But like, I was on a liquid diet for the last 48 hours because I know I have to fit into Speedo tights.
oh my God, really?
I've done it. I've done that world where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm on fruit smoothies and protein shakes, and the only solid thing I'm taking is multivitamins, and then I'm like, and then like 48 hours later, I'm like, I hate everybody. I hate everyone. Give me food. Give me all of the cheap hot dogs at the concession stand at this point.
Yeah, I have a tendency, like, if I do fall off, binge, and then, like, live in total regret. Just this past couple days, I took my mom for a little vacation for her birthday and decided not to work out or eat right. And I feel horrible. And I'm totally in my own head and neurotic about it. Yet I don't have to be shirtless for a while. Dude, I walk around at 5% body fat like I can afford to do that. The fact it's in my head is insane. The fact we're talking about it. I have to keep talking about it. That's how nuts we are.
So I feel like I fall off the same way that you just said, though, is I don't just not work out or not eat right. I don't do both. When I fall off completely. Like, it's like, oh, I'm gonna eat a whole pizza and not work out today.
Of course, but your body needs it sometimes. At least that's how I justify it. But another fact, based on what we talked about with the tenants too, like, I've written out at least 4 to 5 different sort of diet plans for any sort of aspiring wrestler that are fairly easy to follow with the road in mind and things like that. So when I put this all together and launch it, you got to put it over. But
I absolutely will.
at this
I mean, you're part of the Legion now. That's how I see it. Or
Yeah.
we're part of the control your narrative. I'm not sure where you're going with it. We're
We're
part
gonna
of the
go on an
Overman.
Exodus. We're going to go on an Exodus. I'm going to rebrand it totally. But yeah, like, and two, I've gotten to a point, like, I'm very nuanced and, like, measured out, but I eat very well. Like, I'm not starving or anything, and I don't necessarily deprive myself of things as long as they're scheduled in the right time. So I live a decent life.
Well, that's always the best thing. So long as you're happy with what you're doing, right? I have you. All right. My next question: you're a 3-time world champion now. What's kind of been the best or most memorable part of kind of each of your title wins or runs, whichever one you want to go with? If there's one thing that you hold true to each one, I mean, everyone always talks about the first title win, obviously being the first title win, but each one of your 3 title runs has been kind of memorable for at least me. I've watched most of them, and I'm a big fan of the 3 letters, the NWA. So
I would say, well, 2 of them memorable. So the first one being Impact World Champion, TNA World Champion. Same kind of thing when I was younger and I wanted to be a wrestler and I would talk about it. I would be asked, "What's your dream match?" And I always said it'd be wrestling Kurt Angle for a world championship. I did that and I won. And I remember even saying it being laughed at. Like, that's not going to happen. And no, but it did. So I think the memorableness of that being the fact I was in there with my one of the heroes I looked up to. The reason I wrestle is he's definitely on the top of the list of guys I emulated and wanted to follow, share the ring with him, have the honor to defeat him, family being there, and just kind of like the giant, struggle from independence to in and out of the system, into developmental, into the shitty version of NXT, into being fired, into being rechristened, rebranded, and given an opportunity, and then culminating. The whole journey culminating in like one moment is definitely the most memorable thing about that and the title run in general. The second one was fairly quick, and it just felt like business. It didn't have a significant moment because it was kind of leading to a next thing.
Okay.
So it was hard. It was more, it was just business. It was part of the deal. I think the third one, coming off the death of Bray Wyatt, Tyrus and I being, training with him and let that fresh on our minds was pretty emotional. Tyrus doing the honor to retire and me being the one to take him out was, if somebody chooses you for that, like that's very memorable, whether you love them or you hate them. I love them. And then kind of like the history, the lore, the prestige of the NWA World Championship didn't really hit me till I actually held it. And then kind of the weird years that led to that through like, WWE pandemic, firing, CYN, everything with the best intentions to create platforms for aspiring wrestlers and helping people and creating something awesome and unique, to being fake canceled and lied about and deceived and stupid business people making terrible decisions and like all that, to taking that and then going through it all to win another world championship in the most prestigious, 3 letters in wrestling lore. That was very memorable too.
I mean, that's as good of an answer as I could ever ask for. I mean, all those that's awesome, man. So this is kind of a
sound didn't bug you.
So it's kind of a two-parter. Obviously, I know you're a fan of the movie originally, but Derek Bateman, was that supposed to be a play on the Patrick Bateman whole thing, or was that just you just needed a different name and we kind of landed on that somehow?
I don't know. I think the internet kind of back in the day made the NXT name generator thing because everybody would have like these just weird names all of a sudden. And so the story of Derek Bateman was, we're in developmental, we're the new guys. They're like, all right, put some names on this piece of paper, a first name and a last name. And I went, all right. And just started writing names. And Bateman was obviously motivated by Patrick, while Derek was motivated by Zoolander. But I put probably 15 names on each side of this thing. And then one day I show up to an FCW show and it says Derek Bateman on it. And I'm like, who the fuck is Derek Bateman? And they go, you are. I'm like, okay, all right.
Well, I guess that's what we're rolling with.
Yeah, it's the birth of the name. And it was, it could have been worse.
It definitely could have been. I've seen and heard worse. I've been called worse.
No, for sure.
So you've evolved from obviously Derek Bateman to a spoiled rich kid to the top 1%, which I actually do crowbar those two characters a little bit. There is a slight difference when I watch it to the essential character, and now you're the overman. Is there a further evolution, or are you at your final form now, or is this the Frieza final form, or are we going to see even more from you?
There's more.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
even though like the Overman rules, and it's only run for about a year now. But the thing about this industry for any aspiring wrestler looking and listening and reading maybe is sometimes you have to plan ahead for what's next. And it might not be your creative that gets there, but if you start planting the seeds as early as possible, then it's an easier transition and it's easier to sell to your bosses too. So like putting that context in. Maybe I look at it too deeply, but I feel like you're the exact same way. Dropping Easter eggs. There's a lot of nuanced things I will do, and whether five people notice or 15,000, it doesn't matter to me because I do them for my own creative sake. But everything does have context, reason, and rhyme. So yeah, the Overman, there's more to go. There's probably one more
So,
level.
like an Uber overman, basically.
Some
Listen, I'm just saying, if you use it, at least credit me.
I don't want to give it away.
That's fair.
But you'll see.
All right. So one of the questions I wanted to throw in there from one of my co-hosts, I decided to keep this just between me and you, but what has been the biggest inspiration for the evolution to your character over the years? Like, I mean, obviously different wrestlers have to evolve, and I feel like you've evolved kind of better than almost anybody, honestly, than aside from maybe a select few, and you've managed to transition really well.
The Undertaker. He does it best.
I mean,
Jericho. I mean, obviously those are names far above and beyond, but I think the inspiration comes from as wrestlers, we're not actors. If we were actors, we'd be getting paid a lot more money, and people would be doing the things where we fall down and get punched in the face because we'd
for
have
us.
men, right? So wrestlers are reactors, and I think every evolution, sort of Derek Bateman, even to that, is based on how I am and what I'm feeling at that certain stage in my life. So, using whatever reality I have to kind of influence the evolution in the character makes it kind of easy to transition because I am just being myself turned up. The one issue with that comes is that maybe sometimes you don't know where the real you ends and the you know character version of you begins. But then sometimes I think that's when people do their best work, when you can't really tell the difference. Now, granted, I don't go proclaiming I'm the overman walking into, Starbucks to get my black coffee with 3 stevias, but at the same time, I will walk in with a presence and a posture, and everything we do as wrestlers, I think, is training to portray that character, especially when you're dealing with humanity and civilians. Maybe not your family and friends, but everything is like a test case to try something new or react or I don't know, throw words at them, say things like, I'm never going to see this person in an elevator again. Maybe I'll just say something loony to them or quote Nietzsche while they're like, why is this guy talking to me? Because they're trying to look at their phone. So I think the evolutions are easy if you are entrenched in the emotion of them.
Very good. Let's see. I got a couple questions on here. You've crossed over a couple different promotions, uh, whether it be you've kind of hit everywhere, right? Except for AEW at this point.
Yeah.
And I guess part of my question is there ever a plan to maybe do something with Tony Khan in AEW? I know at one point when you were first starting the narrative, I had spoken with you, and you had said that they had spoken to you, but they wanted you to come in as the 1%, and that's not what you were doing anymore. But let's see, you've worked with WWE, Impact, Ring of Honor. You've done your own, and now with NWA. How has working in so many different environments shaped you? Obviously,
Um, I've seen a lot. I don't want to say it all because you'll never see it all, but I've seen a lot and I've learned how each and every system kind of works to an extent, for better or for worse, whether I applied it correctly or incorrectly. Um, the baffling thing about all wrestling, and it's like what I'm doing with NWA Exodus, and I'm running it, but I have partners involved. Especially one is a normal businessman. He's a financial advisor, and like his ideas for real business things, like navigating wrestling personalities, and the whole like act of it is like completely different than legitimate business
Yeah,
sometimes.
like
So
normal business.
yeah, learning that uh, each the amount of assets companies have, and still how the best case scenarios are like organized chaos no matter what. Tape show, live event, house show, pay per view. Like being able to thrive under pressure and chaos, I think, is what I've learned the most from all of them because nothing ever goes as according to plan. It's fun too when you're dealing with, I guess, booking independent wrestlers now, trying to bring them up, how much they want to know in advance. Like, do you know what I'm doing December? I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing right now. Absolutely not. Because again, if I have an idea and I tell them, they think it's actually going to happen when a lot of things will change that you can't foresee. And then the other end, like, a better idea might come. So just be ready. Always be ready, and then you will never go wrong. I hope that answered that.
It definitely does. It's funny you said always be ready. I compare you a lot to, obviously you had your run with him, and that's Cardona. But I kind of hold you, Matt Cardona, now Nick Namath. You all kind of follow. I guess it would be at this point the Cody blueprint. You all kind of had your plan, but you also worked your asses off. I mean, I look at you, I look at Cardona. Namath is doing a million different things now too, but I always feel like all of you guys are just always everywhere. Like everywhere I look, you guys are. So I always, I want that wasn't so much a question as me just commending you for always having that work ethic that
Yeah. And like
it's hard for me to miss you guys because you're everywhere, realistically.
what Cardona did, especially, was like he's done it the best for sure. And he also parlayed it into like appealing to the niche market of wrestling where I might try the things that are outside the box and totally go over people's heads. Nemeth obviously has built his name for so long and has such a reputation. Like he's probably this is the first time I think he's ever been uncontracted by the WWE in his wrestling career. So having that freedom, like you did awesome, you made bank, you can do whatever you want now. Like that's got to be very appealing for him, and he's definitely a go getter. So I think certain personalities, thrive off. It's not necessarily the cash. Sometimes it's the creative and just being able to embark on telling stories, controlling narratives, so to speak. So Cardona for sure, but yeah, I would put us. Thank you, and he's great. They're both great.
um, do you eventually see yourself transitioning into a backstage role, an agent, a producer? I know you've got Exodus that you're running right now. Is this something where at some point when you hang up the boots, you would rather do this, or
Yeah.
depending on how NWA goes, maybe if it is a territory type system, you actually just full on run a territory at that point?
Well, I full on run one now, so I'm kind of
That
segueing into that. Yeah, I'm a creative genius, so absolutely, that's what I should be doing. Uh, I I have a knack for bringing the best out of people, I think. So I would like to see that utilized. I don't know if other people see what I'm actually doing or capable of doing because everybody's kind of so like narrow-mindedly focused in the bubble. But one day it should pay off. But yeah, I definitely see myself in that role with something else on the side too because this shit drives me crazy. People are insane.
I mean, how could it not? All right, so I have two. They're almost like joke questions, and I do apologize for giving you a joke, but one of my friends down here who is in one of my wrestling chats is beer rep for White Claw specifically, and
Mm.
he wants me to ask you about losing your wallet in a White Claw fanny pack at Rockstar Spud's bachelor party.
I mean, I don't know what to say.
I think that's kind of the story there, but like
That is it. Yeah. I still don't know if I'm like notoriously bad for losing wallets. So losing it at Rockstar Spud's bachelor party with a White Claw fanny pack totally probably did happen. The
kind of
fact
par for the
that
course.
like, yeah. Well, you know what they say, brother. Tell them this: there's no laws when you're drinking claws. All right.
I mean, he says it all the time. um, and my other joke question that before I get back into some serious stuff is, you're always touched on for the obviously the Moxley Dean Ambrose bit that you guys going on. Did anyone ever ask you what really happened with EC1 and 2?
Yeah, every fucking day.
I figured. So I'm gonna assume that that's been answered. I just had to throw it out there, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'll bring light to the situation. EC2 at this moment, he's probably at the house, sitting down to watch baseball or listen to baseball in the garage and drink beer, and EC1 died. Okay, he's dead.
Fair
He's my
enough.
grandpa. So that's where they are. He's in heaven watching over me.
Oh man. You touched on working with Kurt Angle, obviously. You've shared the ring with obviously some legendary names in this wrestling business at this point. Outside of Angle, which obviously I'm sure there was some type of influence there, but who's the most influential wrestler you've worked with, and how did they really impact your career?
Oh, Matt Hardy.
Hardy?
Yeah. Just bouncing creative off of him. He brought me up a level to think differently. He brought me up a level in the ring. One thing very important about Matt, I can't say enough good things, and I think those two sentences did not encompass nearly enough. But one thing Matt did for me was teach me and then allow me to become a leader in a locker room at a young age. Because he was kind of like my Obi-Wan in a sense. But he were an impact and, it's trying times as always, whatever. Like leading the locker room as champ or top guy, but like him being there that I had somebody to look to and ask the questions to, and him parlaying his information on me, but standing beside me, endorsing me in that kind of like spot. So Matt's definitely most influential.
Very cool. Is he one of those guys? I know if you ever listen to other people get interviewed, there's always like that one or two guys that you could always talk to. If you ever listen to like the Table for Three for the Nation of Domination, like Ron Simmons is the wrestling daddy. Is like, I don't want to say he's your daddy, but is Matt Hardy like the guy, like if you texted him right now, like you had a question about the business or like something you were just to bounce off of him?
Oh,
is
yeah.
he that guy, or is there someone else that might be the person that you bounce something off of?
I haven't utilized that well lately, but he would definitely be a guy or that guy.
Very cool.
Honestly, another guy would be, if it really, Cena would be one of the guys too.
Okay.
And though we never worked together, like he was very influential. Working out with him, training at the gym, getting to know him, having a lot of talks with him, talking about the business and stuff like that, really helped me develop my mindset. And like that guy's probably one of the top 5 most busiest people. Top 10. I don't know. He's very busy. But if I shot a message with like a question or thing, it would promptly be responded to and with thought and depth.
I mean, that's it's cool that you have that relationship with Cena, though. I mean, that you could hit him up like that,
and I don't abuse it.
I mean, there's that too. I mean, after a while, you're just asking questions to ask questions, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty much my show. What's one thing about you that most people wouldn't expect, but you think your fans would appreciate knowing?
One thing the fans would appreciate they don't really know about me, I would say, would probably be the extreme efforts I take to make people around me better. And I don't think anybody can know that unless they're one of those people. So, but when I die, the next 3 years or 50, whatever, I hope there's at least a good giant chunk of superstars that are prominent in wrestling in multiple different companies who will say exactly that. But I don't do it for that accolade more so than I do it for the fact when I needed that, a couple of the names we mentioned were there for me to help me through it too. So
So obviously, I am not the legendary status or superstar, but I can attest to that. As I said, I took one of your seminars down here in Orlando, and honestly, it cracked open my promo skills, just everything that I was looking for, even little things in the ring that I'd been doing this for so long that I didn't know I wasn't doing at that point.
Yeah, and it's stuff you don't know unless somebody points it out, right? Yeah, trust me, it's not like I invented the shit. It's just that I have a very good recollection of what people tell me in certain things that I can, I don't know, re-envision and say in my own words to people. And so it sounds original, but I'm not reinventing the wheel. It's paying it forward, brother.
Honestly, if you didn't help me with my promos, this show probably wouldn't exist. So I should probably thank you for that.
Let me say again, then, too, in all aspects of the business, if there's a plethora of people that will say what that I somehow helped them become a better version of themselves, you included, that's cool. So that's what I want the fans to know.
And I think just two things to close out then. I know you said you can't go too far into what your next evolution is, but what do you think's next for EC3? Is there? I know we talked more, maybe control your narrative type stuff. Obviously, there's a new evolution to you that is eventually coming that I'm excited to see because
I would say, yeah, to make the Exodus live forever. The Exodus is a new way.
awesome.
So forgo the past. Leading an exodus of like-minded people, like you, Steve, like the dozen people I got rolling around the ring out there right now, like the 30 people that work within the NWA Exodus, the handful of people I actually like in the NWA locker room, leading that forward, leading an exodus. Yeah, that's what's next. They need an over blank to lead that.
Fair enough. All right. So outside of the Exodus, obviously that's big, everything that you're doing with NWA, but is there anything coming up that you really want to promote, that you want to talk about, things someone might not have heard about, just to kind of get your stuff out there? And then
Man, I don't know. Like, I'm really a terrible self-promoter. So what I do know is we'll have a NWA TV in Tampa, October 5th and 6th. We'll have NWA Win in Sarasota, October 26th. I think after that, looks that Killer will be in Dauphin. Here's one thing I'd like to point attention to. Go check out the Exodus show on the NWA's YouTube. Watch that. Like, it's a wrestling show. It's mine. But I want people to notice, if they notice one thing about it, is that every person on that show is over. And I think that's what's missing in wrestling, is like the ability to build people, to make people care about them. And whether that's the talent themselves or the creative or the producers behind them, everyone kind of rolls in the same niche, in the same bubble, in the same box. And it's very easy when you can just find a talented person and unlock something in them so they all get over. So there's 9 matches on that show. Everybody's over. I have a motherfucking guy who sells State Farm insurance who got over. He's an insurance salesman, and I got him over. How? Because people care about context, they care about continuity, and they care about people's characters. And as long as you have that, the shit ain't hard. So check that out, and I think we're going to run our next show 11/16. NWA Exodus presents The Usual Suspects, and we're going to try to put that live on the YouTube too.
awesome. So for as far as NWA Exodus goes, I'll make sure that the link for Exodus is in the description below.
Oh,
And also, I will put the YouTube link for the NWA Exodus shows for you. This way, I can do the most I can to help you promote a little bit. You might not be great at self-promoting, but I will be great at promoting you, sir.
okay. If you want a job running my shit, then let me know. We'll talk too.
I'm still trying to run. I'm still trying to figure out my own at this point.
All right. When you're ready, let me know.
Fair enough. But this has been 3-time world champion EC3. Anything you want to say signing off, my friend?
No.
Fair enough. All right, got
No, the spoke EC3. Okay.
the Spoke EC3 Legion. As always, we appreciate you, and remember, tuck your chin when you bump.